What's going on, guys? This is the DeFi Crypto Line Show where we're doing our best to be the bridge between our fellow real estate investors, entrepreneurs alike, and the cryptocurrency world where crypto is the biggest opportunity over the next few years, and it's not even close. Welcome along on the journey. Corey, take it away.
Absolutely. I am just really humbled and blessed to be here with all you fine gentlemen and women on this cryptocurrency journey. We're going to use it as a wealth creation tool and then use that real estate asset class as a wealth preservation tool. And it's just been a blast with everything going on. We've been kind of like slowly been trending down to the left, which is perfectly fine. I think it's not far from the course where we've been at in these far as the last pump. We had a good week or two pump, and now it's probably accurate that we're having a bit of a retracement. Hopefully we can get Sprackberg, who's in the comments, to come on today and do a little bit of TA for us. But man, yeah, so this has been interesting. Richard's been doing. First, he completely disabled the hex.com front end. Totally, accessible, I guess, because all the heat that's going around Hex. But then he made things a little bit more interesting by disabling the bridge front end. And it's funny, Dane, because like right before this call, I was on with one of my private students, and I did it for the first time. We did it. We downloaded the website, or the front end, the code, I guess, on his computer, and engaged with it. It wasn't that hard. We got it done. We were able to bridge. It wasn't that difficult. I don't think it's going to cause too much resistance. Now, it would be nice if they had like be some better instructions on there for the new guy who doesn't understand how to like download and open a zip file on his computer. Maybe like a little bit of a video on there explaining it. I don't know, because I mean, when retail is coming in, there is the argument like, hey, you're making this a little bit too much. It's gonna be too much resistance for retail to get in. Because already, we're being that we're decentralized and we're not on any centralized exchanges. You have to do this thing called a bridge to get over to our assets. It's already, it's interesting. This only appeals to people typically who are already in crypto, who really understand DeFi at a very deep level. And now we're saying, hey, now you don't just go to a website and connect your wallet. You need to download the front end and run the code yourself. Which, I mean, we get it. We're fine with it. But it's interesting.
It is interesting. In fact, really quick, I'll show you guys. If you haven't used it already, we'll have Sprack jump in, and Frank's here. What's going on, guys? I'll share my screen really quick and just show you guys, if you have not used it already, how to go ahead
and hard.
Download the Pulsechain bridge. Yeah, it's pretty simple to use. Let me make sure I get some of this stuff gone.
And I guess, guys, if you really are feeling like there's some resistance by taking your onboards this route, you could just use the 0x Coast protocol. I'm loving what those guys are doing over there. They're doing just amazing things. They're making it super easy. They have the in-house swap now, so you don't even need to have the stable coin to buy. So you could like wire money in. You got your USD in there. You can swap for a little Pulse. Now you have the Pulse in your wallet, and then you can mint your stable and you're to the races. You don't even have to worry about gas. So what these guys are doing over there is phenomenal.
Agreed. But it's not a big deal. I mean, I went in, so I'm on a Mac. I just choose Mac OS right here. It downloads this file. I open it up.
You unzip it, you run it, and then the front end's right there.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, I open this up as a start Pulsechain bridge server. I just open up the script. I think that's what this is called. And then you literally just hit the play button right here. And you just say, okay. And then it'll go ahead and pull up the bridge.
Yeah, there it is.
Go just like normal.
Yeah, I can understand how some people might think it's intimidating for somebody who's not a computer novice, I guess. Maybe like in this day of age, man, I mean, obviously we have some guys in our group, right, Dame, that are a little bit more not computer inept, right? Or I don't know what the right word is. But 95 or 98% of them are. They know how to work an email. They know how to download a file. They know how to run that file. And yeah, it's like downloading any software. I mean, how many times have we loaded software into our computers?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's too big a deal. It'll be interesting. I'm sure that there will be easier solutions to be able to access Pulsechain as time goes on. In fact, I was thinking last night, Corey, I was like, man, maybe we should put in some effort to try to find some good devs that we could network with. Because gosh, there's opportunity just screaming in my face right now, everywhere, where you can make some of this stuff more accessible. You can simplify things, and frankly, you can make the fees from building a tool that makes this makes it easier. So
yeah, you can create a front end that accesses the bridge and design your own style with it and make it more even user friendly than this now. Yeah, and then you just tack on a little 0.01% fee for everything, and then man, it's a great business model right there.
Right.
Without asking the community to sacrifice $10 million to your wallet so they can go out and buy a Lamborghinis and then spin up a protocol that doesn't work properly.
A half-baked protocol, right?
Now, I'm not targeting any one person, guys. We've got a few of these now.
The sad thing is that could apply to a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it came out, we're like, really, bro? You raised how much? And we saw you driving around Lambos, and you've had 2 years. On one of them, they had 2 years. The other one, they didn't. But it's like, man, come on, dude. You could have got your shit together a little bit better than this. But whatever.
Right. It's interesting. What's up, Frank and Sprackburger? What are your thoughts? We'll start with you, Sprackburger, on the decentralized bridge. What are your thoughts on what we've been talking about?
Yeah, I think it's good. You know, you gotta put yourself back into like where Richard came from and how he was mining Bitcoin with an executable file. And this goes back to the original principles of owning your own keys, minting your own rewards, you doing the work, not expecting profits from the work of others. This makes it more of not a security, in my opinion. So this is only bettering the case that there is someone doing work for you. It can now it's now proven, because now that you have people running their own code, minting their own rewards, interacting with the chain as a freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of transaction, all of those principles that crypto is invented for are being executed finally. I'm not even sure you could do this. Well, I think you could do this on Uniswap, right? I think you can go and run your own front end. But the fact that we're taking that next step forward and producing sort of like an ease of helping other people do it on their own, and creating that education and creating that community where people are actually more interested in doing it on their own. I mean, every day, just about every day, I see someone reporting how one of their wallets got rinsed and they gave their keys to someone else. They have their money on Celsius. I think is finally reaching an agreement. And I think for the people that were not secured investors, unsecured investors, they're going to get 25% of their Bitcoin back. So, I mean, you put your life savings into something, some guy, leverages it and gets liquidated, and you're left with 25% of your bag. And, that's not including the depreciation of the asset. So,
it's brutal.
So it's brutal. It's brutal. And I'm seeing this every day. And like, I'm listening in on some of the, what do you call it? The Twitter chat, the Twitter Spaces.
Spaces.
Yeah, and I'm just interested in how this is going, how much people are getting. There's people that took out a loan, put their Bitcoin up as collateral, and then took the loan out, and now the collateral isn't worth what the loan is worth. So you're basically like, okay, we're going to give you back your Bitcoin minus your collateral. So so you're
wow.
Yeah, so there's people getting and remember the what's the what do you call it, the base rate that they're using is the date of the bankruptcy.
Right.
So which was the bottom of the market.
Right.
So anyway, I know we're pounding on this, but it's kind of like we need to support, we need to educate, we need to create these projects that allow people to manage their own security, their own tokens, their own interactions with the blockchain. There's a saying that he who gives up freedom for security deserves neither. And I know I'm butchering that up a bit, but it's kind of like the kind of mistakes that we're seeing in the space. It's kind of like, yeah, well, do we deserve this freedom, so to speak?
Sure.
And we just have to do better, I think. And I'm not saying anything about, like, I'm just saying as society as a whole, like, we just have to do better about, like, managing our finances. And I think it's starting to creep in. I think people are feeling it, especially like when you see all the talks about inflation and how it's expensive to live. And I saw another report that said that buying a house is twice as expensive as renting in certain areas. And what that means is that people are just not going to buy the house. And it's like, okay, that's just market forces. Well, no, now these people are not going to be holding assets.
Right.
And that's the more important conversation to have, is that the asset class is diminishing in terms of, like, the wealthy versus the, and I'm not here to say we should give everybody money, but it's more just like, let's see what we can do to protect our community, our friends, our family. But
Agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. Well, and it's interesting. I feel like in the last 5 to 7 years, I've consulted with multiple friends or family members that were looking to go. And in fact, I love Frank's insight on this as well, since Frank's in the real estate game, where they were looking to go and sell their main house they lived in because they had all this quote unquote equity. And when we went and looked at other options, they hadn't necessarily moved up in regards to their earning potential. They were earning the same amount of money that they had been before. And so they had this equity to play with. And when they went and played with the equity without increasing their earning potential, they couldn't actually move up in house quality or area. It was a lateral move because the pricing of houses had all gone up so much that all that equity you'd pour in at a different rate and you'd have essentially the same house, which was pretty fascinating. Whereas in years past, right, how many people I know, like my parents, for instance, had bought bunches of houses and they were able to move up the chain over time because of the equity they'd incurred and be able to move up and upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. And we're just not seeing that over the last, at least in my experience, over the last 5 to 7 years, which is pretty interesting. What are you seeing, Frank? Oh, you might be muted. We can't hear you.
Open on my laptop.
Let me see.
Now can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a valid point. I mean, a lot of people are, for instance, in 2020, interest rates I refinanced for 2.75%, right? So 20% of the transactions in 2020 were COVID related, 1 in 5, right? So now fast forward 3 years from then, the overall number of transactions that's occurring in the United States is, like it's a third. I'm not sure how you compute this, but there were 6 million transactions in 2022, and this year overall there's going to be 4.5 million. So you've got what's happening is you've got less transactions. The people, and I think one of the biggest reasons was everybody shuffled around and did what they needed to do. It was accelerated. It was totally accelerated in 2020, and now the people with the people that got a great interest rate, even if they want to move, they can't move because they have such a great rate on their home.
Right.
So it's just an interesting situation, especially with interest rates, hovering around, 7 3/4, 8%. It's just a different conversation. And it took, it really took 12 to 15 months for people to get their heads wrapped around higher interest rates too. Because when they, and this is a parallel in crypto, I've learned in crypto how euphoria you sell and dysphoria you buy. In May last year, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have my best year ever, and right then I said, you know what, this is the top. Literally, it was the top in May. And I'm like, the interest rates went up. I called the own top for myself. And it was very quiet for 2 or 3 months after that until people actually started buying again. And it was like that across the country. So,
right.
Yeah. So does that answer your question? Or, does that give you some insights on it? Yeah.
No, that was great. What's up, Sloth? What's your take on the decentralization of the bridge and whatnot?
Yeah, it's not too big of a deal for me. I know a lot of people are concerned about more friction to onboarding, but that's not that big of a problem in my opinion. It's usually just one extra button click. And then also,
Sloth is running his own scripts already, bro. You're talking to like the crypto master. He has all these scripts downloaded on his computer already. He's already running his front end. Sorry, Sloth. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But I think my opinion on that more is like when you onboard somebody, you're kind of like guiding them yourself. And I think it's the extra complexity added isn't more complex than like explaining what a bridge is and like why you have to do that in the first place. So if you're taking somebody from scratch to like the endpoint, it's all complex, it's all difficult, it's all hard, especially if you're doing it kind of one-on-one. So like the extra complexity added is like insignificant relative to the total complexity of what is required of onboarding. I think I do buy into that. It's a net good thing. With just being more decentralized, less singular points of failure in terms of we're getting people used to running the code on their own using the IPFS servers. And so it's like, hey, if the bridge website goes down, everyone's not freaking out anymore because there is no bridge website anymore. It's all kind of, you can do it on your own. And you guys shared, I think, earlier in one of the chats, like the video on Twitter, where it's like literally you download the zip file, open it up, run it, and then it tells you just click this button, you click it, and then it opens up, and then you run the end script, open it up, just click a little play button, and it ends it. So it's not too complicated. If you can run normal applications on a computer, it's not any harder than that. So I think Richard did a good job of making it as easy as possible for all of this stuff. Agreed. I'll be interested to see if Pulsechain also gets added this kind of website as well. That should be interesting.
Yeah. And I failed to mention earlier, literally you can come in here and click on one of these 3 links. It'll redirect you. And boom, here you have the bridge. So yeah, like you're saying, not a big deal. Just one extra click.
Yeah. And if you're worried, just do a test transaction. Do it with like $10-15, whatever it is, just to make sure it all goes through. You don't have to bridge in all your money immediately. Just take your time and get used to the new kind of workflow to bridge your money over. Also, you can, if you watch my stream with the Coast team, you can technically onboard your money or bridge it through the Coast system because you can deposit Ethereum stable coins for a small fee, 1% or less, depending on how much Ethereum weight that you staked. And then when you do that, that gets deposited as if it's cash that you can convert into the CST token, which has plenty of liquidity for you to put into your wallet and then swap it for Pulse or whatever you want. So there are a lot of options.
Nice. I like it.
Yep.
What's up, Norbert? What's your take, man? Give us a spicy one. Oh, you're muted right now. Go ahead and unmute yourself so we can hear you.
And is it nighttime there or what? Like, I'm confused.
It's London, man. After 5 o'clock, it's like it feels like someone just flicked the lights off and that's it. You know, like go home, go to sleep. Manik and Crypto, shout out to him, Stefan. He made a really good video about mainly for the UK, but because of the coast guys, it's probably goes to worldwide as well. I think it's a nice and easy and smooth and looks professional as well, you know, to onboard people at the moment to the system. So it's definitely a good thing. And yeah, going decentralized on the Hex website. My friends have started calling me, man, what's going on? Like, I can't see anything. What is this? But yeah, it's just an extra step of explaining. It's all about presentation.
Agreed. Corey and I both have been in some of the back room chats where some of these guys that are super negative and bearish on the Pulsechain ecosystem have talked about, you know, what about if Richard has a heart attack and he dies, or what happens if somebody takes him and, you know, takes him out to the woods and we never see him again. And frankly, I think the steps that he's taking here are really cool. Where long term, this is super bullish. Where once again, we are the ecosystem, just like Ash says here. I'll put it back up. But we are the ecosystem, and we don't need Richard. We can run this stuff without him. And I think it lends itself more and more to the idea that Richard will do a Satoshi once he feels like things are largely in good hands and operating correctly. He can largely just hang out in the background and not need to do much other than maybe incentivize some pulls or manage some liquidity on Pulsex.
Yeah, absolutely. He built a theater for us, and now all we need to do just make really good shows every single day. And
right. I'm glad you're on here, Sprack. So you're a good person to chat with. I've been looking at the charts. I've been going back in time to see if I could try to figure out some sort of correlation, because man, I freaking called it months ago on our show. The timing to be getting into Pulsechain was essentially like 60 to 90 days after launch, and since the pricing launched, or where things launched, the pricing was much lower than certainly I think most people anticipated. It threw off my strategy, and I should have stuck to my timelines, it turns out, the whole time. And so I'm going back and trying to look at time frames. And if any of you other guys on the show know the answers to this, I'd love some insights. But have any of you guys done research to be able to see how long in the last cycle it took for a lot of the major altcoins to top out in relation to the Bitcoin top? I know that with Hex, Hex was topping out after the first Bitcoin top, and then Bitcoin had retraced, and then Hex topped out, and then there was the double top in Bitcoin. That was largely due to the sacrifice that Richard was putting on. So I don't think that Hex is necessarily a great example in that respect. I'm wondering if, Sprack, have you dug into that at all?
No, and well, okay, yes and no. I dug into it in terms of you're talking about Pulsechain, right? You're talking about Pulse and PulseX in terms of the launch.
I'm talking about alts in general in respect to like.
Okay, so there's two mechanics that you're referencing to. One is you're talking about a bottoming out after some distribution event, right? Coins get released into the ecosystem. People either buy them or sell them. If you were a pre-market participant, you got your coins right up front, and you had the ability to dump or to swap or to do whatever it is that you did. Okay, and that happens on every token launch. So you talk Uniswap, any of the pre-market token launches, and those have a particular pattern. Those have a massive amount of volatility at the front end. So you got people that are dumping their tokens to get some of the value back that they've initially deposited, and we saw, and Pulsechain was no different. And yes, there is a sort of 90-day kind of a timeline that happens where you need enough enough distribution for that to happen. What was unique about Pulsex was that there was an SEC order against Richard for filing the Pulse and Pulsex and Hex as a security, and so we would have bottomed out a lot higher because of that. So I it went actually below some of the targets that I had. I thought we'd get about 50% of, the SAC rate, get people to like distribute their coins, take their values off. There was a lot of incentives for people to do so. Again, there's some uniquenesses to Pulsechain, and what people are maybe missing in terms of like, why is this going down or why is this happening? This is kind of a normal thing. It's a normal distribution event. And then what happens is that at some point, we rinse out people that didn't really want to be in the system in the first place. And we brought in people that looked at it as an opportunity to get into the system. And until that happens, we don't move up. And I remember talking to you guys in the mastermind, and when the injunction came out against Richard, we saw this big fat red candle, and that's when I was like, okay, guys, I'm going in. I see value here. I see people capitulating. I see people trying to panic toward the exits. That's when I flipped bullish. And I said, no, this is a great time. I was talking to you, Frank. I was like, no, this is a great time to start DCAing right now. And that's when I started getting kind of heavy, and I brought down my cost basis. And so I'm actually looking pretty good now. So whether it's 90 days or not, some of them are actually a lot quicker, especially if it's a meme coin. If it's a meme coin, it's not 90 days. It's like a week. And so they vary. But a good solid project.
If you looked at much of the data surrounding alts and them getting to the top of the next cycle in relation to Bitcoin, is there much correlation there to be able to see, in time frames that they look to top out? Because you can look at the data and see that, major blockchains tend to bottom anywhere from 60 to 120 days in. What does the top data look like?
So typically the tops happen after Bitcoin tops.
Right.
So Bitcoin will hit its all-time high, and then what it'll happen is it'll pull back and kind of be boring. And what happened in that case is you had people that are just moving liquidity, and they're moving it from one token. They're moving it from Bitcoin into alts, because alts can do so much more with less liquidity. And you'll see them run a lot harder after Bitcoin. However, there are some exceptions. There was a few coins that topped out before Bitcoin and never got that second pump. But like some of the major ones from like the 2017 cycle, Tron, XRP, Ethereum, a bunch of those big tokens had massive run-ups right after Bitcoin crashed. And so Bitcoin hit its top like literally on Christmas, or that time between Christmas and New Year's. I think it was like on the 28th or something. And then it just fell sharply. But you saw some of these other altcoins top out in mid-January, and some of them as late as early February. So just
interesting,
and that happened again on this previous cycle. I just don't have, and I don't have the data in front of me, but it's like some of those coins are not the same coins as the 2017 cycle. It was more things like Solana, more things like Luna, AVAX, Matic, and those.
Right.
Sprack, can you give us some more insight? Like, what will you be looking for to show or indicate that our ecosystem is topping out? What's going to give you insight to go, what, maybe I should start dollar cost averaging out now? Just how you mentioned earlier, like you're like, when you told Frank that, hey, this is a good time to get in. This is it. Like you spotted it, you saw it, you reacted, which is amazing. How about getting out? What is your thoughts?
So getting out, that's going to be a much more difficult question to answer. And there's a yeah, I wish I could give you like a, oh yeah, look for this signal. Look
Well,
for
there's
that
no
signal.
perfect. I get that.
But here's okay. So let's put it into context. I have some targets for BTC, and I think that this is just my opinion, but I just think that I'm not going to get out of completely get out of alt positions until I think BTC has topped out because of that lagging effect that we talked about, where the liquidity flows from Bitcoin to Ethereum to the major alts and then finally to the micros. And so I'm gonna start gauging Bitcoin first, and then I'll
Over
say,
or under 100K Bitcoin this cycle?
my mid target is 126. I think I've been holding that target for a while. I again, we could hit 100 and just reverse and just go south. We could hit 150. I don't know how much money's gonna come into the system. I don't know how much money they're gonna print
Right.
in terms of global liquidity, because Bitcoin is a function of global liquidity. So you got to you got to temper your expectations. There's people that are saying I'm done at 80K, and that's fine. They're not wrong to think that, because if the system keeps going the way it's going and you have diminishing returns, I see all of that. But if for some reason uh, Bitcoin gets an ETF and you have $14 trillion sitting on the sideline that wants to put 2% allocation as a hedge against inflationary risks or equities and whatnot, uh, you're going to see that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to look at Bitcoin around certain fib levels. So one of the things I do is I look at fib extensions, because it's really difficult to measure how far something's going to go once it's at all-time highs. And this is with anything. This is with stocks, with S&P, with currencies, with anything like that. So when you're at all-time highs, there's no resistance above you. So there's no like, oh yeah, here I'm going to sell at this resistance level. It's easy to do when you're going sideways, or when you're within a range that you could spot resistance, you could spot support quite easily. But how do you do that when you're hitting all-time highs? And so you would look at fib extensions, and the fib extensions give you like a gauge on what market psychology could do in terms of like how far something can run up after it's done a pullback and a bounce. And
Are you in front of your
yeah.
computer, Sprack, that you could share your screen and show some of this stuff?
Yeah, I think I could do that. Yeah.
Would you be willing?
While you're doing that, I'm going to comment on this. For me, Franklin, you hit the nail on the head for me. I was talking about this with Dane in the green room before we went on. I would rather sell myself short on some gains than round trip all the way back and F up the whole market cycle. And so that's where I'm at with, and we saw a lot of the Hexicans do that this last time, mainly because they were staked. I'm not going to make that mistake. I would rather, if I miss out on another 2 or even a 5X, because I don't need a 500X for me to make the money in this game, or even a 100X, to be honest with you. I even got a 30X. It's going to be quite remarkable for my families for generations to come. So that's the way I'm looking at it. If I sell myself short a little bit in the front end, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna have to be, sleep good at night with that, and I will. And because I'm not gonna round trip.
So
yeah.
Can I just inject right here, or what do you?
Yes, Frank. Please.
So there's a couple things too. Is that you could go on Euphoria, right? You could sell on Euphoria.
I'm always on Euphoria, Frank.
Yeah, right. But will Bitcoin reach Euphoria again? Like, will there be it would have to, in my opinion, is 125 going to be euphoric for Bitcoin? If you think about that, I don't think it will be. So my point is that if you sell on Euphoria, will Bitcoin even be euphoric this go around? And while you guys were talking, I looked up. So Bitcoin first topped out April 15, 2021. Then it topped out again on November 9th. And on November 8th, ETH topped out. So that was what? May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 7 months later, ETH topped out. And then topped out the 18th of September. So that was exactly 6 months after the April 15th one. And here's a good one. BitBoy called the top of Bitcoin in late September, early October. Because I watched BitBoy from the start when I first really got heavy into crypto. And so he called, the interesting thing was, even though he was calling the top on Bitcoin, he actually called the top on Hex, but didn't know it by the September 18th date, roughly. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say is in conjunction with what you guys.
Did he call up on his marriage too? I'm sorry, the bad joke.
We all did here in the bottom. Yeah, you saw that going sideways. Yeah, there's the marriage top, unfortunately.
Wow. Hey, can you guys see my screen?
Yep,
yes.
We got it.
Yeah, and so I guess one of the things to add to all of this is the way that I'm getting out is not all at once, and I'm going to break up my sell orders into 10 or so.
Yeah,
just pick a number like that.
Too.
We're going to sell 10%. We're going to sell 10% once we get to some of these levels, some of these major levels, because they're going to provide some resistance there, psychological and also liquidity resistance. And so, yeah, basically like what you said, Frank, or Corey, like you don't want to take a round trip, go all the way up and then come all the way back and receive no value. And you're not going to be a hero and perfectly time the top and perfectly sell the last candle. And you need to be okay with that. And the way that I'm basically playing it is we pop up a certain level, I'm going to sell 10%. We pop up another level, I'll sell 10%. We pop up another level, I'll sell 10%. And I think once I think that we're in that frenzy euphoria, I'll start doing like even timings, even like pullback levels. Like if you look at the last cycle, like even if you just sold within, let's just say you did it on a monthly basis, you're like, okay, this is the end of the cycle. The next 10 months, I'm going to sell 10% every month. Boom, 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 boom. At least you captured most of this before it headed down, whatever pullback this was. And the pullback is definitely going to be much more aggressive on the altcoins than on Bitcoin. We've already seen that there's diminishing returns on the upside. Well, there's also diminishing losses on the downside. If this thing gets ETF'd, you're going to have people holding it in their 401ks. And those people aren't going to immediately dump it. They're like, no, this is a long-term hold. I'm supposed to have this in my retirement account, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Same reasons that hold up the S&P 500 is because people have it in their 401ks, their IRA accounts. It's kind of like it has like a buy and burn. Why does the S&P keep going up? It has a fucking buy and burn. Every paycheck, every week, every 2 weeks, people buy it. It has like
that's a great point.
It has an automatic buy and burn. And so when you add stuff to this to the asset to that bucket of liquidity, you're talking Fidelity, you're talking BlackRock, you're talking all these guys with major boomer money, and how this is going to transition, especially because boomers are now in the last 5 years, what would you call their contribution ranges, meaning that they're no longer putting money into these markets. They're taking money out of the markets, and they're using it to fund their living expenses. And then eventually what their next generation, which is like, I guess the next big generation is millennial. Most of the ones I talk to don't really like stocks. They like crypto and other stuff. But anyway, you guys
and to your credit, along with what you're saying, yeah, it's interesting here how you had like almost a full year to sell within that top-ish range on Bitcoin, whereas on Hex you only had about 40 days to sell at 40 cents or more. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very hard to give a give a plan like, oh, this is what you should do. I don't know what you should do. I think Randy has a good plan where he says he sells on every double, 20% of the initial investment. So he just keeps selling on a double, on a double, on a double. That you could do that too. That's a great strategy. I don't know what strategy would work for you. All I know is, and then maybe I'm taking more risk by relying on my technical analysis and market sort of forecasting. I could miss the top too. So I take all of it into account. But anyway, if you could see my screen, there's these fib extensions, and basically we had this market top, and we pulled all the way back down to the $15,000 level, and where the market bounces back up, and you hit these levels, these 1.272 levels and the 1.618s. These are like really big psychological levels, and we used this a lot in Forex to see where like a bounce would finish before it would turn around, and we would start looking at like in these regions, we would start looking at like patterns on lower time frames that would give us like a bearish divergence, or if we started to see like the money flow indicators start to, and you could buy indicators. I indicators only as good as you know how to use it. But let's apply this this same sort of technique to the 2017 run, and we could see that we had a pullback down to that what was it, like a 3 to 5K level. Oops, let me get there. That, and if you see where we topped out at, just around the 1.271, and really peaked out at the 1.618. So this is like a another engagement of euphoria of seeing how like some of these markets tend to like get overheated and start to slow down. Let's try to do this again with the first one, and this one actually went much beyond the 618. So again, not all the cycles are going to behave differently. We may see a diminishing return on even this. So do we even get to the point 217 on the next cycle because the gains are diminishing? I don't know. And so like around these levels, I'm going to be starting to take a look at weakness, take a look at the bearish divergences, and start to scale out at that point. And that's just how I'm going to be playing it. It's going to be a day-to-day thing. I reserve the right to change my opinion. I reserve the right to sell at a moment's notice when I feel like people have their pants down, and we'll be talking about it in our mastermind chats, and I'll be very transparent, very honest of what I'm doing, and to try to protect my community, and that's about it. Yeah, and I may sell before that, because remember, like I may have I may have personal targets, meaning that like, oh, I one of my coins did a certain amount. I'm allowed to take half of that off the table to go and purchase a property or something.
Sure.
Like that 100%. Like if you hit numbers for you that let you retire early, you know what? Just take some of it off the table, because look, you're not going to get that time back. And especially if you're, I don't know where you're at in life. If you're a little bit older and you're just like, oh yeah, but I could make, 10 times more the money. Yeah, but are you going to live 10 times longer? And some of these, I think, who said, I think RG3 said something about like the way that he laddered his his hex stakes, was that he was going to say, look, in 7 years he can get all of his principal back, and at his point of life he would be 65 or 55 or in that range. And he's like, if I have enough money in there, I'm going to EES, even though you're not supposed to do that. But he says I can get all of my principal back and I can actually enjoy my life. But we're all going to have different outlooks on this. So yeah, it's going to be very subject to the person, the individual, and whatnot. You may need the liquidity to start a business. I don't know. Like there's people there's some wonderful stories about early Bitcoiners that sold a long time ago, before it hit 65,000, but they made like enough money to like open up their own clinic, and open, like that's what this stuff is for. Remember, guys, there's an end game to all of this. It's a means to an end. What's the end game? That's for you to decide.
Dave Feeder, he paid off his student loans, so it's different for everybody. It's his end game was, wow, he didn't even know that was his end game, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're getting kind of philosophical now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely need to have it. You need to have a plan, and you need to have something. I think even all the trading guys that I worked with, all of the coaches that I had for doing like trading and stuff, the first thing that they told us was like, if you don't have a why, you're not going to make it in this game. And I don't know if they do that in real estate or if they do that in other kind of asset classes. Yeah. But like this, as soon as you walk in the door, the guy's like, I want to know why you're here.
Yep.
And like, I'm here to trade. I'm here to make. No, that's not why you're here. And it's like everyone's looking up like, what? He's like, no, we're here to trade and make money. He's like, no, that's not why you're here. And until he started getting like, oh no, I want to pay off my mom's house. Oh no, I want to buy, I want to send my kids to college. Oh no, I want to do this. No, I want to retire a little bit earlier and spend time with my family. Like, you got to have a strong why, because what that's going to do is that's going to prevent you from making mistakes. It's also going to keep you hungry for knowledge, and to keep grinding it out day in, day out, day in, day out. What are you doing this for? If you don't have a strong reason to do this, you're going to get lazy. You're going to say it's not that important. You're going to skip a day, and then those bad habits start to creep in. So it happens in health. It happens in fitness. It happens in almost any industry, just about. But yeah.
Yeah.
So from a TA, I guess from a TA point of view, yeah, I'm going to be, as soon as we cross the all-time high, I'm going to be on this thing like every day and watching everything. And I may even take profits once Bitcoin crosses its all-time high. If we get like a big nasty green candle going up on some of this stuff, I'm taking profits, especially if we get an overextended move on the lower time frames. So again, this is on the big daily, big weekly time frames that I'm looking at right now. But you could see something on the 4 hour, or you could see something on the 1 hour that could say, hey, let's take a look at some of the more recent sort of moves, like what we saw here, like on Ethereum. Ethereum went up and basically just tested like this previous local top. And where did that come from? Well, that came from all the way back here, where we had these resistance levels. So support, failed support, now becomes resistance. And so yeah, during this crab, what I consider to be like kind of a crab market, you're going to have opportunities to buy these pullbacks if you're still not positioned, and you're going to see them in all of the alts. Solana, I know you guys like Solana, but again, it had this massive run up. But let's take a look at a fib. We had this run up, and it absolutely crushed the. I thought it was going to turn around at the 618 and pull back, and it did, and it pulled back to the 272, but it didn't drop below, and so it used it as another launch pad to go up, and it's going to go up until it hits some sort of resistance, and it looks like there was a pocket of liquidity sitting right here, and that order block sort of took it down, and yeah, so I think the market has been activated, meaning that like a lot of these coins, if you look at this is a weekly time frame here that we're looking at, and so on the weekly time frame we have this big massive downtrend, and Bitcoin crossed it a long time ago. Bitcoin crossed it last year around this time, but Solana barely crossed it. Not too well. Not let's see, mid July, I would say. It popped above it, comes back, does a retest of that same level, and then it starts to skyrocket. And so a lot of these coins are doing this. I think I don't know if Litecoin. I can't say much about Litecoin other than Sami's neighbor has it, but Litecoin has still not crossed that. Litecoin is still in its bear market, so I wouldn't be touching Litecoin until you see at least it cross this line. Look, it's below this 200-week moving average. Litecoin has not woken up yet. Solana has. It's
well, and Solana has too, because of the grayscale, the GSOL, as well as like we talked about. That I think that pumped it big time. I don't know what the time that was, but
oh wait, yeah. I think I'm on the log scale for this one. Let me go back to my the other windows that I have. Yeah. So some of the ones I'm looking at, and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm looking at a bunch of shit coins, guys, but that's kind of what I do. I just look at everything. If I'm looking at something like AVAX just crossed its line too. It crossed this major downtrend, and it just popped right above it. And as soon as it popped right above it, it hit this pocket of liquidity here. So there's going to be some resistance. There's likely a pullback, and where you would look to enter is maybe on this red line. I thought we were going to get a pullback here to the $14 range, but we never got there. We just kind of just skyrocketed off of that. Phantom, same thing. Wait for it to come back down in here. All these coins are running all near protocol. Atom. Yeah,
how does ours look? Sprack, what would you say ours is at? Pulse, PHEX.
Yeah. So what's funny is that TradingView is racist.
I know we don't have it there.
TradingView is racist. So we have to go to Dex Screener. Let's go.
One other thing, do you guys ever use Lunar Crush?
I did in the last cycle when I was kind of being a degen, and I was like on there like looking for all the stupid coins, and what that is like the Twitter.
Yeah. Well, it's funny
for each coin, and you can get in and out. It's a trader tool.
Well, it basically reflects social media
sentiment.
And I looked on it this morning, and it was Pulsechain wasn't even on there. It wasn't even in the top 200. And then I checked PulseX. Funny thing. I checked PulseX, and you came up. You had your Twitter came up. Yeah, Corey Geary, your Twitter was the most on Lunar Crush with PulseX. So it begs.
I never talk about PulseX.
You came up. Yeah, and I think Also, I remember seeing something 555 on there too. So take a look at it.
It's like both of the narratives that I talk against. I'm popping up.
Yeah, I mean, I can. While he's gonna do this.
That's hilarious.
Lunar Crush.
Brock, wouldn't you say that looks like it's kind of rolling over a little bit, and then we're kind of rounding out on something there?
Yeah, the fact that we did not hit the 1.272 is bearish. And one bearish. So it's bearish, and one of the what was the other indicators that I was looking at? I don't really look at volume too much, but the other one that I look at is the I have to keep resetting my charts because most of the stuff that I do with DeFi is I use VPNs and so like it never saves like my data, so which is fine. But let's see. Yeah, this is the pair with the highest liquidity. Yeah, 17 million. Yeah, this is the pair with the highest liquidity. Yeah. So I look at the stochastic again. This is going back to my trading days. Let me reset some of these to 15.
Yeah, well, why he's doing that? Like, what? Really? How am I over this guy? And
yeah, you're actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you're the 7th person mentioned. When I put in Pulsechain and Lunar Crush under cryptocurrencies, you're the 7th person.
Wow.
I don't know.
I never talk about Pulsechain.
Well, it makes me wonder if there's a way for the entire community to put certain things in their Twitter that allow them to come up on social media more.
Do me a favor and look up Bitcoin and see if Brizology pops up.
All right, hold on.
Did Corey rank above Westcott and K for K on Pulsechain?
Like what?
That's really fascinating if that's the case.
Yeah, Briz does not come up. Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Grayscale, Wrap Bitcoin, Bitcoin Turbo Coin. Anyway, yeah. So.
Oh my gosh.
So, is there a way, Sprackburger, to, like, if there wasn't all that money injected into Bitcoin, or if there wasn't all the money printing going on back in 2020, kind of like we were seeing with the sacrifices for Pulse and PulseX, right? For kind of that parallel for Hex, right? All that money ran up the price. Is there a way to look at a decaffeinated version of Bitcoin without the money printing on a chart? Is there a way to see if we didn't print money, what it would have looked like and how high it would have gone?
Yeah, I've never looked at that. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but you would have to write a script in TradingView to look at money supply and somehow do some math equations. But I mean, they kind of do that for stock splits, like when you look at a chart and into some stock that had like 20 stock splits over the last 100 years or something like that. You don't see that in the data, you just see the chart. But you also don't see the money supply in those as well. Good question.
I was just thinking from the standpoint of predicting what the top is in Bitcoin now. Okay, here's the decaffeinated version.
Yeah. So something I will be looking for is like what I'm seeing on the screen right now, which is a bearish divergence. A lot of these tend to work out pretty well. And I think we saw this on Pulse. Again, sorry to be bearish on our bags, but we just have to be real and we have to be grown-ups about it. And so we did get a sort of a pullback and a very weak follow through. Remember, this was a very, very massive pump. It almost went parabolic. We fell out of the parabola and we did this very weak sort of mound, this rollover. And if you look inside of here, there's a head and shoulders pattern on a lower time frame. We'll go into that. But on a daily time frame, which is a very big time frame for trading, you're seeing this bearish divergence. And so like this oscillator is starting to show weakness in the momentum where it disagrees with the higher high. And so when you have a higher high on the price and you have a lower low on these oscillators, on the stochastics, you could use an RSI too, whatever lets you see it better. I like using the stochastic. But when you see them disagree with each other, that it doesn't tell you, okay, this is going to fall or this is going to, it doesn't tell you anything. All it tells you is that there's a disagreement in the market, meaning that there's a there's one particular group going one way and another group going another way, and it's typically I don't know what the failure rate, maybe it's like 7 out of 10. You have to take the probabilities into consideration, but more than likely it's going to drop from here. And that's where a lot of traders would have got in, maybe shorting this, like on this little pullback that happened just a few days ago. You could have, the market tends to, do like one last little gasp of air, and it tends to do it on the 618 or in the 786. Let's see.
Where would you project it pulls back to if you had to guess?
Yeah. So look, it went right to the 618, and then it fell from there. And so if we're looking for pullbacks, what we want to do is we want to analyze this last pump that went up. So it went all the way up to this level. And so now these fib levels are going to act as your support levels. And so
probably the 76
came pull back right to the 50, came up, and it probably will come down to the 618, 786 level.
Or 718. Okay.
Yeah. And so maybe you'd buy like a little piece here, and then if it holds, you're good. If it fails and it keeps dropping, you start looking at these levels to buy. But to be honest, I think looking back at some of this, I don't think we go below the 0.0005. I think this would be a great level to purchase. You're getting 50% off of the SAC rate, which I think was up here at one. And anything underneath this level of support that failed, this was like the SAC rate right here. If you're getting anything underneath the SAC rate, you're doing great. Again, like we talked about, this was that SEC filing that happened against Richard. This is when I was just like, okay, that's it. Let's go. We got like a little bounce here, but then look, this area acted as the resistance level. And I think I told Frank, I was like, look for a sell off at the 0.00008. And this is where I would say, wait for this area to clear. If we get a rejection from that area, you could DCA. If we cleared this area, this 0.08, and traded above it and started doing closes above it, then this would be your support level. So I know that it's an abstract way of thinking, because you're like, oh, but you could have just bought it down here. Yeah, but you don't know if it's going to dip further. So when you see these areas closing, again, look at this long-term time frame. Boom, boom, boom. Finally crossed it right here. Bam. This would have been a great time to buy in, because you had cleared all of this this bearish downtrend. You're making higher lows, and you're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And then look, the market took off right from there.
So is the market building in the November 28th date right now then? Is this downward movement? Is this what's people are this downward movement is this the precursor to the November 28th announcement?
That's
a good in slow time.
That's a good question. So like now you're confluencing technical analysis with fundamental analysis. And when you so like there's always a reason, right? There's always a, like, after the fact, you're like, oh yeah, they there was some fundamental news or some interest rate that came out or some which are important. The market is always going to try to front run that stuff. So yeah, the answer to your question is yes, but because I can't see all of the participants and who's doing what, all I could rely on is the chart. And the chart is as real as it gets, because the numbers don't lie. Whereas in like someone could lie about what they're doing or not doing.
What your record is.
Yeah, like my background is technical, so my religion's better than your religion kind of thing, because I knew fundamental traders that hated technicals and they both made money. So yeah, you just like pick what makes sense to you and just remain consistent with it. But yeah, like we're getting a like a little head and shoulder pattern here. We could see this dip further. Again, there's like there's trend lines that are being broken. Again, I'm not being bearish, but I would be cautious at this moment, trying to go like 100x long or something like that. I think Sloth was saying, should I go 30x long? And I think it was up here when when he said, should I go 30x long? And I think we got a nice little pullback. The good thing is that buyers are stepping in. I am seeing some support. So that's this thing didn't just fall off a cliff. Sometimes it does that. So yeah, this is healthy. This is a healthy market. What would be nice if we just kind of just do like this sideways thing for a minute and then start to crawl up, and then once we trade above this 0.0008 0.077, once we trade above that, boom, I think it's we're off to the races. So that's my opinion. But anyway,
there's a whole stadium of people cheering right now just from what you did here, Spratberger.
A stadium.
It's like stadium. Now it's like, wow.
Yeah. Again, it's just like it's keep it real simple. You had this support level, and then you had a failure of that support level, and then it rejected, so it gave you some resistance. So it's once we get back up to that level, you're gonna have resistance again. How deep is that resistance going to come down? If we could trade above it, yeah, we're kind of off to the races. And then we go up to that next support level. Hold on a second, guys. Here you go. Yeah. And then the next level that I'm going to be looking at is that SAC rate, that dollar SAC rate. And you're going to have people that are just like, I'm done. I've been holding this back for 2 years. I just want all my money back. I don't know what somebody called those guys, but they just he called them like I forgot what he called them, but there's a word for that, and there's just like and I've seen it in trading. I saw it in Forex when you're like in a long position, and price moves against you, and you don't hit your liquidation level. But as soon as it comes back into your level, like you're like, okay, that's it, I'm getting out. And there's a
PTSD.
Yeah, there's PTSD. Yeah, that's true. But at this level, at this $1 sacrifice rate, people are gonna get out.
It's gonna. I imagine bouncing around there for a while, like going under, coming above, going under. Just a lot of resistance and support in that area.
Yeah, and again, clearing above that is a beautiful thing. You clear above that and do a decent close, do a decent hard close on a higher time frame, and then once you come back to that area, now that's your support line.
Yeah, getting above that, like we're in price discovery again. You know what I mean? It's like it's back to like, okay, the potential is unlimited again. It's even though we've had higher highs, but it's not the same. It's not the same market. It's those higher highs.
One of the good things about clear, like obviously there's this big massive sell-off here at the beginning. Like one of the good things about these sell-offs is remember you gotta make everything positive. You gotta look at the positives. So the good thing about clearing that sell-off is once you trade above this level where it kind of did this flag, this kind of like bear flag, once you trade above that level and start using it as support, your next level is up here at a 2-to-1.
Oh,
because there's not a lot of liquidity in between this area.
There's nothing there. Yeah.
Right. It's all in this pocket right here where price got to stick around for a long time. And let's just say it's back here. So where price got to stick around here for a long time, it creates memory. And when price stays when price creates memory, people remember that that's where they bought or sold, and they can make decisions based off of that. But there was not a lot of time for price to sit in this area.
Yeah,
so
got wrecked.
the next, so the next level is going to be right up here, where people sold off the top. It's like, oh, well, I wanted to sell at a 2-to-1. When am I going to get to sell at a 2-to-1? Well, right up here. So there's that. And then once we clear this whole range, then we could start looking at fib extensions going from top to bottom and then seeing how it's overextended. And then again, you could peel off little pieces on these extensions. Like if you feel that the market's overextended, we've hit this, even if price keeps going up without you sold at a profit. And you determine how much that is. It could be $100. I don't know. I don't know what you put in. I don't know what you're getting out. So it could be offensively small, like in terms of your profits. Like you could use it to buy back some other coin that's really distressed, or you can use it to get this big cash account for in case there's like a really big dip, and you could buy up that dip. I mean, like people are like, "Oh, I bought the dip," but with what money?
Right.
Have you been? Were you taking profits on the way? You don't have money to buy the dip now. So, this stuff is not easy, guys. It's so I don't expect people to just like be experts at this, but at the same time, just knowing that this is the hardest game in the world, this is the hardest thing to do in the world. Just knowing that, and that you're in the right place and that you're studying the right things, gives you an edge.
I like it. This was great.
Totally.
Gold information.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, it's great. When you started talking about a couple different things about it hitting the SAC level, it made me think of EOS, because that was a $4 billion sacrifice, and it hit. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't even know if this is relevant, but maybe it is. So it took about 6 months. Hold on here. So it took about, oh, darn it. On EOS, it took July 14th to mid-November. So, never mind. I'm trying to draw parallels to one of the biggest sacrifice, the second biggest sacrifice
of all time
projects of all time. Anyway, never mind.
Yeah. Take a look at Uniswap. This was like one of the prime examples. We had a token release, massive distribution event, finally hit a bottom. I don't know if I could count this wick as because I'm not. This is on Binance, and so remember, like the coins on Binance get distributed, and there's like a bunch of volatility. But what we can see is that there was a bottoming in event, and then going back to like what Dane was saying, that you could count out like 90 days, 90 to 60 days, or something like that. Once you get above this sell off, it acts as a support. And so this area here, where like it traded above this sell-off, now it acts as support. And this is what we have to get through on Pulsechain and Pulsex, is we have to trade above the sell-off and then use it as support. And then again, the top of these ranges are going to act as resistance. Again, we get a nice little pullback, maybe one last chance for you to get in, and then boom, it's off to the races. And then you see these kind of candles and going up to the top, and they don't stop until we hit like, the next cycle, which was May of 2021. So Uniswap tended to top out a little bit early. Then this is one of those coins that I said was um, topped out before Bitcoin did. Bitcoin didn't top out until much later that year, and I have a feeling that this had to do with the token founders dumping their coins, but I can't prove that. But yeah, it just kind of ranged sideways after that. But we definitely want to see this bottoming out and then try to trade above the resistance level. And then once it becomes support flips resistance, and we're off to the races. Also, might be when Uniswap launched. If we look at the date here, this is September of 2020. This is pretty late in the cycle. It's actually extremely late in the cycle. So we're talking next year around this time to be launching this token. And so, maybe we get a better run because, we would have cleared out all of our distribution before that. But who knows? Who knows?
It's almost like it launched on the hype of DeFi summer,
It sure did.
Yeah.
It sure did. And it was like one of the biggest DeFi protocols to be used. Everything was on Uniswap at that point. And then I think Hex was like one of the biggest pools on Uniswap. And I think it brought all the popularity and all that. And I wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you think about like some of the idiots that are applauding Uniswap for delisting tokens? I mean, again, I'm a positive guy. I think of it, oh no, this is a good thing because now it's going to, sort of force people to go and use better front ends but
I think they were spoiled from being in the RH ecosystem. I was seeing one of the wallet hacks that you were mentioning. In fact, I saw your comment on it this morning and liked it. I think they were spoiled from being here, where we've learned about how to set up your hardware wallet, how to protect your keys, how to use, code, at least in a small degree for some of us, to be able to go and run some of these applications. And most of the crypto world just doesn't have those insights. And so you see a lot of these guys saying things that, that are ridiculous. And I think that naturally, as you see ETH get more expensive, as you see more issues with the SEC, I think all those things are really bullish for Pulsechain and the stuff built on it long term. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
I got to hop off. I got an onboarding.
Cool, Corey.
Okay.
Go for it, buddy.
Oh, it's already 10:30 over here. Anyway, is there anything else you guys wanted to look at before? I guess we.
Man, that was good. That was excellent. Seriously, appreciate you sharing. I think that's good for me. Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to see before we pop off?
As a closing thoughts, maybe just a few things before you go, guys. We appreciate Sprague to give us his time, but as the way you started is everything depends on how. Because if you look at in life, everything is a ratio trade, yeah. So how much purchasing power every fiat currency is gonna lose by the time we're gonna get more and more adoption, for example. So right now we're giving away 35 or 36,000 of our dollars for one Bitcoin. But if those fiat currencies getting weaker, then we might gonna give more of those things for only one item. So that's we can't really compare previous cycles as well to current ones because the financial situation back in the old days were slightly different, let's say. And also many of these projects, look at EOS, they never delivered. They done one of the biggest sacrifice, let's say, ever. Not sacrifice, but ICO ever, but they never really delivered what they promised. And look at, I don't want to piss on anyone, but Polkadot, for example, is still a promise coin stage. Like ETH, yeah, is a great invention, but it's kind of unusable for majority of the people because the gas fees are too high and the network can get too congested, which they're working on. But let's see when they're gonna finish it. And also, if you compare all these other cryptocurrencies to Pulsechain and the surrounded ecosystems, we are like on a god tier level. We are way above ahead of all these other things. I mean, look at Cardano. How much money is being pumped into that system, and can you use it? Like, what really can you do with it? Not much. Like they have that Sunday swap thing, which like barely works. If I go on PulseX, it's like instant. If I wanna make some extra yield, I go on PageUX. So that's the other thing. We might, as further and further we develop, we might not need to sell most of our cryptos, let's say. And then what Randy was saying, that he when he dollar cost average out, he's gonna look at the dollar value, not the token amount. When he's dollar cost averaging out, when he said, okay, I take 10% or 20% of my bag in a dollar value, not the token value. And if you play the game right, play cards right, then take some loan against your Pulsechain, take some loan against your Pulsex. You might not need to sell that many of those cryptos as we go. And then maybe because the market is maturing at each cycle, maybe these volatility is going to be less and less, and maybe that cycle is going to last much longer than people expecting. That's the way I see things.
I think that's a fair take. I know that I'm personally not going to be betting on an elongated cycle. I'd like to hedge myself to make sure I don't round trip anything. But definitely it could happen. There's a lot of thoughts on this being a shortened cycle, an elongated one. Do we end up kind of a normal one and top out 2025? We're all here for it. It'll be fun to see. Yeah, great points, Norbert.
Yeah,
good points.
What do you got there, Sprague?
No, I'm just looking at Ethereum because I trade the perpetual swaps. That's kind of like what I do like in the morning. I just get up and I look at what trading range we've been at and whether or not we failed that trading range, and it looks like we did. So anything that comes back up to test these levels, I'm going to go short.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're respecting a 4-hour trend line, and so like don't recommend people doing this, but if you want to look at like micro movements, you'd see what the 15 is doing on this break level, and something like this, where you failed this support level and broke down below it. And so when you come back up to here, this is like a nice shorting opportunity. I see a continuation pattern heading down, and especially because remember we talked about these divergences. So here we have like a lower low, and here we have a lower low on the stochastic, and so the stochastic agrees with price at the moment, and so I have momentum in my favor here to go short. Again, not financial advice, but these are the kind of things I look at on an intraday level, just to see where price is going to move in the short time frame, not the long-term time frame. But I definitely see Ethereum could trade down until this next level that I'm looking at here at 1875, and and if that level fails, then looking at 1776 to get down to the support level here. Again, there's going to be a few levels in the middle, but if we get a flush, basically like what you were talking about, there was an ETF filing, and let's face it, guys, the SEC does not want to do anything in this year. They're not going to do anything this year, I don't think. It was kind of a buy the rumor, sort of sell the disappointment kind of thing. And I think we flushed down a little bit, which is good. It's going to actually trigger a bunch of buy entries that I have on some of these other altcoins. which is great. Let price come to you. Be patient. That's the best I could.
Hey, Sprackburgers, thinking about other things that trigger other buy situations for you. What do you think of Tetra?
I really like Tetra as a use case. I don't know what it's gonna do in terms of price action, and I'm trying to minimize my portfolio size in terms of how many coins I have. So if you have if you need a coin, it's a good one.
Got it.
But definitely would love to interact with that product. I think what they're building is going to be amazing. Have not looked at the technicals. I think it's so new. I think it just dropped, right? Didn't it drop today?
Today, I think
they just released their DEX aggregator today. Yeah, or they're supposed to be if they haven't yet.
Okay, yeah, it's on my radar of things to do. Not that I don't already have too many things to do, but it's definitely on my radar. And then like for me, I'll scan it. If it looks like it's in a buy condition, I'll nibble, definitely. But if it looks identical to Pulse or Pulse X, then I might be better off just adding more to my Pulse and Pulse X positions.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. All right, cool guys. Well, we've been on a long time today. Appreciate everybody jumping in. Appreciate you guys in the comments. Everyone sharing their perspective. The show is what it is because of you guys. So seriously, appreciate you tuning in. Catch us next week. And with that, hope you guys have an excellent weekend.
Thanks, guys.
All the best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you, Frank. See you, Spark. See you, Dane.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Norbert. See you, Sprack. See you, Dane.